Hello, everybody. Another video from the archives. I recently told you about that rubber piece that was going bad, so I just went ahead and took that off. This is a recent acquisition, an eBay victory. This is the World Football League from July 17th, 1974. This is from week 2, so this is the first home game for the Detroit Wheels, who would not even last to the second season of the World Football League, because they will host the Florida Blazers. The Blazers would wind up losing the World Bowl, the only World Bowl ever played. We go to the cover, and there's World Football League Commissioner Gary Davidson with the prototype of the World Football League ball, which was originally yellow with blue stripes. It turned out they would use a different a ball with a little more normal in looks. Here's the Detroit Wheels and the Wheels staff. None of these people look familiar to me. Okay, and here's the multiple bunch of owners of the Detroit Wheels. And I'm looking here, and none of these people look familiar to me. And here's the Florida Blazers offense, Jim Strong, who spent some time with the Saints. I think he has a 1974 football card with Topps, really. And then there's Larry Grantham, who played for the world champion Jets in 1969. Here's the Wheels head football coach, their staff, which is head coach Dan Boyce-Joer, who was formerly the head coach at Eastern Michigan. Don't really see anyone that looks familiar of the assistant coaches right offhand. Meet the Wheels. Well, number 22, Rocky Long, would eventually be a college football coach, would be the head coach at New Mexico and San Diego State. Bubba Weiss is the brother of the late Sam Weiss, former coach of the Bengals and Buccaneers. Number 38 is Terry Hepner, who would eventually be the head football coach at Miami of Ohio and Indiana. And then there's another shot of Gary Davidson and that yellow. I wish they would have used that ball. It looks really cool. And of course, there's a new kind of Volkswagen, the Dasher, cleverly named for the obvious reasons. Ballantine Scotch, which is, I guess that's supposed to be a knockoff of Betty Davis. Well, there's a pretty cool cartoon of Gary Davidson. These type of cartoons used to be much more in vogue in the 60s and 70s. There's somebody named Donald Reagan. He's the secretary and general counsel of the World Football League. I had to check who it was. Gatorade. And there's some shots of the teams of the old World Football League. Standout sports names. Return to the top at the WFL. This is TVS, which was the syndicated television. That was the World Football League's Thursday night schedule with play-by-play man Merle Harmon. There's the Wheels roster. Advertisement for Cool cigarettes. And there's the starting lineup. Any of these names look familiar? Well, we mentioned Bubba Weiss. Rocky Long we mentioned for the Blazers. Bob Davis was a backup quarterback for a few years in the NFL. Jim Strong with the Saints. A.D. Whitfield was a CFL star. Larry Eli would play with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers after this. And Miller Farr was a one-time Pro Bowler with the Detroit Lions before this. There's the Blazers rosters. A new magazine called Women's Sports. Oh, and the lovely AMC Gremlin. What a lovely car that was. It's the new era for the computer quarterback, Virgil Carter. Carter was formerly of the Cincinnati Bengals and was playing for the Chicago Fire. This is the World Football League's official ball. They did not go with Wilson the way most leagues did, or most football leagues have. They went with Spalding. Actually, Scottish Terriers. WFL rules takes the game to the fans and away from the kickers. Ball will be kicked off from the 30, the goal post to the back of the end zone, because the NFL was still, this would be the 1974 season was the last year of the end zones being in the field of play. Missed field goals will be returned to line of scrimmage. Receivers will need just one foot in bounds. That's the college rule. A fifth quarter split into two 7.5-minute segments to break ties. No fair catches. Okay, some of those sound all right to me. And here's an article on Pro Football Hall of Famer Tom Fears, who was the head coach of the Southern California Sun. Ugly football player lamp. I bet they didn't sell a whole lot of those. And there's the best hotel was the biggest show in town. The Hyatt still is. There's some more of the wheels. This is what's interesting. What's the future for the WFL? These are players that are currently playing out their option, but had signed contracts to join the World Football League. Very few of these players would play in the World Football League, but a few would. Hall of Famer Larry Zonka would, as would Richmond Flowers of the Giants, John Gilliam of the Vikings, Calvin Hill of the Cowboys, Jim Kick, Darryl LaMonica. But most of these players had signed future contracts and were either bought out. Paul Warfield did, played in the World Football League. Most of these guys would either have this deal bought out, or the league, if it was after 1975, the contracts would be null and void because the league was no longer. Gene Buttman Ford Sales with John Hiller, who was the closer for the Detroit Tigers at the time. There's the Wheels schedule with games all home and away with Don Kramer and Mike Lucci, former Lion linebacker. He just passed away recently, and that was at one of our cleaning out the inbox passing segments, or posts, I should say, with Mike Lucci. They played their games at Rynearson Stadium. I'm not sure how that's pronounced. That's the home of Eastern Michigan, which now it makes sense why Dan Bosture was the head coach. This is their wide receiver, Ubi Bryant, who would have big numbers for the Wheels. He had a cup of coffee with the Steelers and the Patriots in the NFL. This discusses the action point, which is basically there was no extra point. Touchdowns would be worth 7 points automatically in the World Football League, and then you would have a run or pass action point. So basically, instead of giving you 6 points and getting an extra point or option go for kicked extra point with the option to go for 2, you were given 7 points and made to go for an extra point through pass or run. So that's pretty much it as we wrap up the World Football League. This is the Detroit Wheels hosting the Florida Blazers. Hit the subscribe button if any of this stuff interests you, and check out the blog at thoughtsofrs.blogspot.com. So hope some of you are at least watching, and thank you if you are.